History and the Copper Scroll, Walters 1994, Annals of the New York Academy of Sciences, Wiley Online Library, History and the Copper Scroll. By A. L. Walters, Redeemer College, Ancaster, Ontario, Canada L9K1. For by the title History and the Copper Scroll I mean to signal my intention to discuss two topics, the historicity or authenticity of the treasure listed in the Copper Scroll, and the historical Sitzimleben of the Copper Scroll itself. In a secondary sense, the title also alludes to the history of the scroll's interpretation. 40 years ago this year, on March 20, 1952, the Copper Scroll was discovered in a cave about 2 kilometers north of Qumran. The discovery was announced in the pages of the Revue Biblique in the following year, but it was not until 1956 that the complete scroll was cut open and read, and not until 1962 that Millik's Editio Princeps of the Hebrew text, together with his French translation and commentary, was published. The 9 years separating the first announcement of the discovery from Millik's edition were a period of wild speculation and bitter controversy. A brief account of this colorful early history will be illuminating for the present state of scholarship on the Copper Scroll. It can be conveniently subdivided into 3 periods of 3 years each. From 1953 to 1956 the 2 rolled-up pieces of the Copper Scroll remained unopened, and its contents could only be guessed at from the letters which showed through on the outside. Roland de Vaux, the leader of the joint expedition which had discovered the scroll, wrote that the most probable hypothesis is that it contains some rule or regulation which was posted in the central building of Khirbet Qumran. 2 later that year he expressed himself even more positively. The scroll had been attached flat to a wall and could only have been affixed in one of the rooms of the central building of the community whose ruins are found in Khirbet Qumran. 3 de Vaux had no doubt that the Copper Scroll, together with the pottery and parchment fragments that were found with it in Cave 3, belonged to the Qumran community. Originally, there was no doubt about its date either. William Reed, who had participated in the expedition as director of the American School of Oriental Studies in Jerusalem, and who reported on the discovery in Basra in 1954, stated flatly, on the basis of the archaeological evidence, that it was certain that the copper rolls were placed on the floor of the cave prior to 70 AD. 1 de Vaux, R. 1953. Fail au Khirbet Qumran. RB 60, 1953, 84-85. De Vaux, Fail, 85. 1 de Vaux, Exploration de la Région de Qumran. RB 60, 1953, 558. Reed, W. L. The Qumran Caves Expedition of March, 1952. Basra 135, 1954, 10. Related to. The Statue of Liberty was built over several years out of the decidedly non-green material copper, over 30 tons of it. So how did she become green? Thinking face. Statue of Liberty, this is the real color of Lady Liberty, trusted since 1922. It has nothing to do with paint, or jealousy. The statue's green color comes from several chemical reactions. The American Chemical Society made a video breaking down each stage of the statue's chemical transformation. It turns out that the Statue of Liberty has actually been multiple different colors. As the name of the material would suggest, the statue was originally a bright copper color. However, once she was assembled in New York Harbor, a reaction called oxidation, which is also responsible for rust, began. Her copper exterior began to react with the oxygen in the air. That reaction created tenorite, a dark brown-black material. So her copper color got darker before it got lighter. Completing the chemical makeover, sulfuric acid in the air, much of which comes from New York air pollution, reacted with the tenorite and the oxidized copper, turning the exterior green. By 1906, all traces of copper were gone and the statue was the color we know today. However, in the early 1900s, Congress collected money for repairs, suggesting that the statue be painted its original copper color, but people protested, and the repairs never happened. Thankfully, because we certainly can't imagine this iconic statue being any other color. Plus, learn why American money is green. Related to. Life. The wonder sites in Ohio may be as vital to human history as the pyramids. Why have they been ignored for so long? Thinking Face. By Dan Coyce. Dr. Brett Ruby is a National Park Service archaeologist. It was known from up in Lake Superior down to the Gulf Coast, the Atlantic seaboard to the Rocky Mountains. People were visiting this place, and visionaries from Ohio were going out, beyond the horizon of their world. Right. We were at Mound City, across the Scioto River from Hopeton Earthworks. Each mound we saw here, Ruby explained, represented the location of a wooden building where ceremonies once were conducted. Each building held a clay altar in which human remains were burned, along with handicrafts and materials from across what is now the eastern United States, copper from the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, shark teeth from the coast, clay pipes in the shapes of birds. From roughly AD 1 to AD 400, such buildings sprang up in this square enclosure, were used for some period of time, then decommissioned and covered in layers of clay and earth. I retained dim memories of childhood field trips to, as it's still named, Indian Mound Park in Sheboygan, Wisconsin, inevitably underwhelming to an inattentive fourth grader. This was different, a concatenation of mounds on a pristine lawn, and a compelling story about why they were here. Ancient America, North America. Did you know Kalamazoo, Michigan? Ancient copper scrolls.